Hey, it's Dick and Norm's movie talk again. Is this 4 or 5? I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Dick. I mean 4 Norm. 4 Dicks and a Norm.
4 Dicks and a Norm. I think, yeah. Norm's going like skinhead on these things. So skinhead with a tattoo there. Wow. So that's Norm on these videos. So Dick is in where are you? Bakersfield in the Valley in California, up in Seattle. Yeah. We're doing this series we showcase films today, this morning, whenever you're watching this shit. This is movie scores and soundtracks. Now, the whole thing about scores and soundtracks, just for your information, if you don't know, score is usually a composer scoring specifically the movie, the music for a film. A soundtrack sometimes are songs included in a film, but I guess it's not exact science like that. Is that your take on it, Dick?
Yes. Yeah. That's there. Yeah. Basically.
Okay. So
I'm to be honest, I'm not really big into movie scores. I know they play a critical role in movies, but I'm going to show records in this one. I assume you are too?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I'm showing records and movies when I have both.
Yeah.
There's a few I don't have both, or I'm missing a video. There's a video I thought I had, but people don't give a shit about that. But yeah. I'm mixing in actual scores and soundtracks where they collected songs, some original, and then sometimes just picking up songs that fit. Directors do that all the time.
Yes.
So why don't you start out, and we'll just go as long as it needs to go.
Yeah, I thought this would be short, but I don't think it is. Now that I look at everything,
this is going to be basically the director's cut of Dick and Norm's.
Yeah, my honorable mentions.
Oh, we have honorable mentions. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to show some records and then a couple of films.
Okay.
My honorable mentions is this Uncle Meat, Mothers of Invention movie that was never made. Pretty good album, actually. And then I got this Mothers of Invention movie that was made. I have a bootleg copy of this, but I didn't dig it out. It's not a great movie, though.
I saw that movie at the Bridge Theater on Geary Boulevard in San Francisco when it came out. And what they did is they shot it on video and blew it up, and it looked pretty terrible. It's just like it's a shit show of a movie. What's bizarre about it, it's Frank Zappa, Flo and Eddie from the Turtles, and then who played with Zappa. Ringo's in it.
The Beatle Connect.
Ringo plays Zappa in it. Yes. Theodore Bickel, the Jewish folk guy, is in it. The commie folk guy. It's just I remember it's like a total stoner film.
Yeah, it's not very good. No, and talk about movies that are not very good. What is this? Oh. Zabriskie Point.
Zabriskie Point, Antonioni. I'm showing that later because I'll tell you why. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. The order. This movie is terrible.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is pretty good, but this album cover is even better than the soundtrack, man. That is a great. But yeah, I don't even like Blow Up, though. I know you're a fan of that. I think this guy's movies pretty much blow. But we're talking soundtracks and scores. And then one more honorable mention is the Jimi Hendrix Rainbow Bridge, another movie that is a piece of crap. And what's funny about this, the music on this album is not in the film at all. So it's called Rainbow Bridge, but it really has nothing to do with the movie.
And that's they just put out this year the Maui collection.
Yeah, Live in Maui.
Live in Maui, which is actually really good. I got that, and that's part of that stuff.
Did you get the DVD and CD, or did you get vinyl? Or
I got the vinyl, which has a Blu-ray in it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, yeah, that's probably what I'll get.
Yeah.
And then I got 2 more honorable mentions.
Okay, I'm just gonna sit here and smoke a cigarette and drink a beer.
And this one is Grease. Now, I had no interest in watching this movie when it came out. I thought it would be, a big turd. And in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, I had a good friend who was a goth kid. He moved he lived 3 houses away from me when I lived in Los Angeles. And this is his favorite movie. And for the life of me, I'm going, what the hell? Grease is your favorite movie? So we rented it and we watched it, and it's a good movie. You know, I mean, it's corny, but it's a good movie.
Actually, I like that. And that was, God, John Travolta, like those 2 years with Saturday Night Fever in that movie was on such a roll. The music thing was huge. Obviously, Saturday Night Fever and that based on that off-Broadway play, whatever it was. And also it made it, I mean, she's hot in those when she comes out in the leather pants at the end.
I saw Saturday Night Fever at the theater, but I had no interest in Grease. For some reason, I thought it was going to be some goofball musical.
It works. I mean, it was a period piece then of the 50s. So now it's a period piece beyond that even. I mean, we've gone through that whole thing, you know, so.
And I'll do one more honorable mention. Oh, brother, how, where art thou? What's his name? T-Bone Burnett? He did a great job. He did a really good job with that film. And
the soundtrack to that was huge. That was a kind of a phenomenon where people really got into all this roots music, like like Gillian Welch and Emmylou Harris and Charlie Louvin, and it's really, I love that. I love that movie. And
my mom and dad had.
I have a Coen Brothers soundtrack here too that he did.
Yeah, my mom and dad had that soundtrack.
Yeah. Are you finished now? You kind of bogarted that whole fucking first 10 minutes here. Okay, honorable mentions. I mean,
you know, usually I've noticed I'll say this is a good movie, and then you show yours and you talk for like 2 or 3 minutes. So it's about time I bogarted something.
Okay. I'm going to start with a Beatle connection because, you know, again, that's how I roll too. If you ever saw, what's that film? That great
Hard Day's Night?
No, that great film. It's a comedy. I don't know if we showed it when we showed our comedy. I can't remember anymore what we.
The Ruddles.
That movie that Ben Stiller directed, the war movie where they're making a movie, and it's got Robbie Downer Jr. plays an Australian actor in blackface.
Okay, yeah, I know it. Yeah.
I'm not showing that, but he talks about winning an Oscar. He's doing this whole shtick about winning an Oscar. You can't go full retard. You have to go partial retard. Sean Penn goes full retard, wins Oscar. Daniel Lewis goes partial retard, wins, or whatever it is. Yeah. And I know that's not politically correct, but I'm going to show this movie where he goes partial retard, or is it full retard? I always get confused which one. I Am Sam, a little film about, it's obviously Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer. The film's okay, and he's autistic, so that means he's partial retard, I guess. I can't remember which retard you are.
Yeah, he is.
And now, lighten up out there in the world if you're freaking out here. But when they filmed this movie, the whole concept is he's into the Beatles and Beatle music, and they played Beatle records while they were filming this. And of course, they couldn't get the rights to all these Beatles songs because it's money. So all these indie artists recorded those Beatles songs. And so it's got Amy Mann and Michael Penn, who is brother of Sean, doing Two of Us, Sarah McLachlan Blackbird, Rufus Wainwright, Across the Universe, The Wallflowers, I'm Looking Through You, Ben Harper, Strawberry Field, Sheryl Crow, Mother Nature. So kind of those, I don't know, not alt country, indie country type things. Paul Westerberg doing Nowhere Man, you know, from The Replacements. Nick Cave ends up with Let It Be. So it's a pretty good soundtrack, and it's great to have these indie, I guess they're not all indie artists. I don't know what you call it, alt country or whatever they call it. But this is my honorable mention. I like this soundtrack. So these were actually recorded for the film.
So would that be a score?
Sorry?
Would that be a score then?
No. It wouldn't. I scored it, but it wouldn't be a score. I think was that a record store day? I don't remember now. What the fuck? Now, this movie is a film I saw once, and when I saw it, I loved it, and I walked out of the theater like, what the fuck did I just see? And I never want to see the movie again because it's an intense film, and that's Requiem for a Dream. Darren Aronofsky did, how do you pronounce his last name? Darren Aronofsky was a director. His first indie film was called Pi, about a Hebrew. It's about Hebraic text and pi and the letter and the 3.14 and mathematical figures and cult things. He also later made Black Swan, the great ballet film with Winona Ryder and whatever her name is, who won an Oscar for it. Princess Leia, the second Princess Leia in the second round. Anyway, whatever. But the score is by Clint Mansell, who was
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman. There you go. Thank you. You need to help me, Dick, on these things because
I'm just slow. I'm part retard. So
okay, well, this is an eye, so we can merge into the show an eye on a record cover thing. But it's not an illustrative eye, but it's a creepy film. Jennifer Connelly, Jared Leto, Ellen Bernstein, creepy shit ass film. Now, Clint Mansell worked on a lot of his scores, so this is actually a score, and the music was played by the Kronos Quartet. They do a lot of modernist classical music like Philip Glass and John Adams and that kind of stuff. It's a kind of an intense score. But he was in a band, and I'm trying to think of the indie UK band that he was in before he switched to doing scores for films. Someone's going to yell it out, like something like, I'm in a band. Oh, I forgot the name of the band.
What's one of the cool kids I know?
Well, see, let's ask. Let's find out here.
So that movie's creepy.
Clint Mansell in.
That movie's creepy in what sort of way?
He was in a band, Pop Will Eat Itself. There we go. I've heard of him, but I've never heard the band. It's creepy. He has this it's just creepy shit. I can't even describe it. If you like creepy shit, just watch it. I can't remember it, but I just remember it's so creepy. And Ellen Bernstein, who was in The Exorcist, is in it. And she is creepy as hell. I think she might have been nominated for an Oscar for this. So anyway, he's done most of his scores. Darren also did a horrible version the last few years, Noah's Ark. Anyway, I think that's all my honorable mentions, because everything else I'm going to mention, so they're not very honorable. I don't know.
All right.
So go ahead, Dick.
Okay, my first person I want to talk about is Bernard Herrmann, who did scores. I guess he started out doing scores for Orson Welles. He actually did the War of the Worlds. He was conducting the orchestra when that radio broadcast went out. He did Citizen Kane. But he's most famous for doing Hitchcock movies. He did Wrong Man. There you go. You got North by Northwest. We're getting there, Norm.
That was my first.
Vertigo. I heard on this one that Bernard Herrmann didn't actually get to conduct the orchestra for this because there was some sort of strike or something.
Yes, conducted by Muir Matheson, composed by Bernard Herrmann, conducted by Muir Matheson, the fucking scab. He's probably a scab, right?
Yeah. Psycho.
That's the classic. Yeah.
See, I say I'm not a soundtrack guy, but I think this would be a pretty good record to have. Even Vertigo, the music in it, and I believe in this. It's all strings. I don't think, and the music had a big part in the tension in the film is due to a lot to the music.
And that's a score, or that string part in the shower scene especially is something that's been like parodied on other movies. People like to use that, and for people to remember the whole Psycho thing.
And as far as records, I got this record here.
Oh, I like the. Oh, I have that Fibonacci's record.
Fibonacci's. They did Psycho.
I forgot about that. I have that record. God.
And then he's credited with musical. I don't know what they call it, but there's no music in this. I think there's just chirping birds and shit in this movie, if I remember right.
Well, what does it say in the back? Why don't you read the fucking back of the DVD?
it's too little. He
That's what
he
she said.
he did this one, and on this one, he's actually in the film
Yeah,
conducting
he
the
conducts
orchestra.
at the Royal Albert Hall.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And I think I have one, and that's all. That's all about Bernard Herrmann.
Okay, well, I'm going to skip on Bernard Herrmann because I just showed you that was my first composer, actually. So
Yeah,
I'm going to move on.
I figured it might be. That's why I threw him in first.
Yeah, he's an obvious choice, but he's a great choice. I actually have a couple of CDs, not of him conducting, but later versions of people doing Bernard Herrmann, including Psycho and North by Northwest and all that stuff. And that stuff's great. It's
Yeah.
You know who I didn't include here? I don't know if you included him, but I'm going to throw him out there anyway, because I think he's important for a next generation, and he's an LA guy originally. A lot of these guys are LA. Well, is Danny Elfman. I don't know if you include Danny Elfman, but Danny Elfman obviously did most of the Tim Burton things like Batman and Pee-wee's.
Yeah.
But he's done so many things since then. Nightmare Before Christmas. I think he's a genius. And of course, he comes from Oingo Boingo.
And you know who else is Mark Motherberg or whatever from Devo?
From Devo.
Yeah, that guy. He actually scores a lot of films and cartoons and that, and he's really good too.
Well, I remember when I first saw he was doing that as my kid was growing up on Rugrats, watching Rugrats, and he did a score for that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to start out, or my next one is actually, I don't know if it's considered the first movie that had a rock and roll list of songs that was a huge hit record. 1969. I'm not including like groups like the Beatles doing Hard Day's Night. I didn't pick the Beatles because to me, and I could have picked the United Artists Hard Day's Night soundtrack, but I think Easy Rider was an important film. This came out of nowhere because this was the beginning in a way of the whole anti-studio thing that was going on in Hollywood, where these sort of former Hollywood renegades just went out and, went on a cross-country thing, filmed, got stoned, got high, and great film. And of course, the music they use in this, Peter Fonda wanted Dylan to write a song for this. And Dylan basically said, have Roger McGuinn do it. I don't want to do it. So he wrote, did he write it? Wasn't Born to Follow, which is great song. The Birds on here doing that, which is basically Roger McGuinn. But I mean, Steppenwolf, they were already big and from 1968 and their first records, but the Pusher and Born to Be Wild on this, it really pushed that group and those songs even further. And of course, I got into, I talked about this in a video recently, Fraternity of Man, Don't Bogart That Joint, My Friend, because they were sort of an offshoot of Little Feat or something. I don't remember and the Mothers, and there's some kind of DNA there. But there's a Roger McGuinn doing the Ballad of Easy Rider, and It's All Right, Mom, Only Bleeding. And of course, a song, Kyrie Ellison doing by the Electric Prunes. And I remember there is a version on here of The Wait, and the irony, there must be a legal thing. I don't know why they fucked it up, but The Wait is the band song, and the song by the band, The Wait, is in the movie, but the version on the soundtrack is A Band Called Smith. So it's not even the version that was on Capitol Records. Maybe Capitol wouldn't allow it or something, I don't know. But this is, to me, is a great soundtrack. And I've told the story before on a couple of my videos. I bought this soundtrack at Tower Records in San Francisco. And we went to a buddy's house and hung out there and got stoned. And I got in my car and I was fumbling for my keys, and I put the record on the top of the car when I got in. And I drive out, and as soon as I get on this boulevard, I see the record like fly off the back of my roof. And of course, the car behind it runs it over and smashes it up. But I got another copy. But what a great soundtrack.
Yeah, I don't have that soundtrack. That's one I have my eye out for, and I haven't found a good copy of it. But yeah,
there's a lot out there, but they got played a lot.
Yeah.
That was a fun soundtrack. So
yeah, that was a good one.
Yep. All right, Dick.
My next pick is Jan Tiersen.
Oh, good choice.
And I'm not real familiar with the guy. The only reason
I just got turned on to him this past year.
I know about him because he does the music for Amelie. And I thought, I mean, the music, I love the music in that film. And it turns out, I guess it's songs from his first 3 albums or so. It wasn't actually made for the film. But I thought I would love, man, I'm going to check it out. So I checked out that soundtrack on YouTube, and I'll never listen to this. I mean, I love it with the film, but on its own, I would never listen to it.
Well, that's the key. What would we listen to separate? Or sometimes music is only good a part of the film in many cases. But there's a whole group of people that are really into collecting soundtracks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm not.
Yeah.
Do you remember this part of the movie?
That's a flashback. That was a flashback of her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When, I can't remember what the neighbor did. He did something to her. So she hooked up something to his, or I guess maybe it's a different scene. But the funniest part, one of the funny parts of that movie is when he's watching the soccer, and every time they're getting ready to score a goal, she disconnects his antenna, and he's going, ah, ah.
You're getting all highbrow with your music choices this time.
I love that movie. So I had to.
I know you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it too. It's great. I got to watch it again. It's been about 5 years since I've seen it.
Yeah. We'll see how highbrow I go.
Yeah. I'm going now to one of the most beautiful scores of an epic 60s. Remember, I mean, you and I are in the same, we're the same age pretty much. You remember the road shows of the 60s, like Cinerama. There was a big intermission because of long and cropped Cinerama stuff. One of the great soundtracks is Maurice Jarre's soundtrack for Lawrence of Arabia. And this score is gorgeous. I love this score separate, especially there's that whole, and I don't know the cut, what they call the cut. There's the overture, the main theme, but they kept going back to that music all the times when he's out in the desert. And there was, I don't know if it was a rumor or actually a fact, and I don't know how they calculated. Apparently, they sold more sodas during this movie in the day than any other movie because all those desert scenes, people got so thirsty. Because there's those scenes, those long scenes when when Peter O'Toole, Lawrence, is in the desert and going through the desert and all that stuff. But there's several different versions of this, and I just got this a few years ago. It's on the shrink, so I guess I got to get it off
now. No, don't do that.
Fuck it.
Don't listen to Michael.
Cold Gems, Monkey's label.
Yeah.
But so this is a fantastic movie. It's one of my all-time favorite films, Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah. And Maurice Jarre is the father of Jean-Michel Jarre, who did those albums like Oxygen in the 70s, electronic music, French, around the time of Kraftwerk and Gary Newman and all that crap. So
that's a great movie.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Hail by Critics is one of the greatest motion pictures ever made. If you haven't seen Lawrence, unfortunately now you can't. I saw it in a theater again about 5 years ago when I first moved up here. It's a great, huge single screen Cinerama that has these festivals, every year. And I love seeing the 70 millimeter prints of these things. And it's so great.
Yeah. I saw that when I was a kid. And I remember walking out of that movie and I was saying to myself, when I grow up, I want to be like that guy. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I just, I remember seeing it young and I didn't quite get it. I think because it was long and everything else. I remember Omar Sharif and everything. But all I remembered was him in the desert and riding the motorcycle. It's all I remembered in the whole fucking movie for years. But I love this film.
Yeah.
Right, Dick.
All right, my next choice is it's probably an obvious one, but it's John Barry. Scored, I believe, 11 James Bond movies. He wrote the James Bond thing. But yeah, the only one I have actually on vinyl is Thunderbird.
Thunderball, not
Thunderbird.
Bird.
I said Thunderball, which is not one of my favorites.
There's no bird. They're underwater.
Yeah, they're underwater.
Sharks.
That was not one of my favorite Sean Connery ones, but I like both of these.
Yeah.
Dr. No, Goldfinger. Probably my favorite is From Russia with Love. but I didn't find it. So, but
I
yeah,
almost picked John Barry.
he scored a lot of movies. I remember. You remember Born Free? Born.
As free as, yeah.
Yeah. I
There
think he
was,
won Academy Award for that.
yeah, there used to be a parody that someone did. Born free, my father's a doctor.
Yeah.
That's like dad humor, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I have Doctor No soundtrack. I have Thunderball and Goldfinger. Those three, good stuff.
Yeah. I would like to get Dr. No. They're probably all good, those early ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's actually someone showed it. I mean, I don't. Are you a fan of the James Bond themes at all? That kind of shit.
Well, I had an album of the theme songs, and I purged that.
Yeah.
I kind of like the down 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 down.
It's and they use that kind of surfy, twangy guitar there.
Yeah, I can listen to that. The Shirley Bassey and the Wing songs. I don't know.
I get it.
I listen to it, but I don't think I ever really want to listen to it again. So it was part of my purge.
You mean
pretty
you want Carly Simon or Aha's song for James?
No, Duran Duran. Yeah, it was a good album.
Duran did one, right?
It's a good album.
Garbage did a good one. Remember Garbage?
What's that? Yeah, Garbage.
They did a pretty good one.
Which movie?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It had to be, yeah. I like Garbage a lot, though.
Yeah, they did too. Those first two records are fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going with something I didn't obviously see at the time because it came out in 1959, I believe, and a movie that won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. And the movie is a great movie about culture and music and Brazil, and that's Black Orpheus. And it's such a fantastic, it's in a way, I'm trying to think what the story is a little like Romeo and Juliet, but it had a big following. And of course, there's two soundtracks that I have. There's the original soundtrack, like the score of the film, that has a lot of like Carlos Jobim, Luis Bonfa. Remember, this is just before the explosion of Getson Gilberto and the whole, Brazilian craze that swept the nation, that type of thing.
It's a few years before, isn't it?
Yeah, that was 64 actually, and this is like 59 or 60, I believe. And then there's this one, which is they kind of overlap. Actually, they might even be the fucking same thing that I got twice. I got the same fucking thing with two different covers, I think. Anyway, people will tell me, but anyway, I love this soundtrack. And what's interesting, it's not a great fidelity thing. In fact, they move in and out of percussive things and songs and studio recordings versus sound and music taken literally off probably the Nagra, the stuff they used to record the film, like almost like a documentary film. Some of it's shot like a documentary film, but it's really great. And also there was a song, remember there was Vince Guaraldi had a record, which I don't have anymore. I want to get it. Vince Guaraldi, the jazz piano player, who obviously everyone knows because of the Peanuts Christmas stuff and all that. And it's Black Orpheus and Impressions of, and the hit song on that called Cast Your Fate to the Wind, which was a Vince Guaraldi thing. So I love this movie. It's one amongst my favorite. But if you're into music and the culture of Brazil at the time, Antonio Carlos Jobim, Luis Bonfa, great film. 1959 grand prize at the Cannes Film Festival. There you go.
I've never seen that movie.
It's worth. I mean, if you're a music person, it's worth seeing. What I like about you, Dick, or one thing I like about it, a lot of shit I don't like about you, but one thing I like about you is you're into like foreign films, and you're not one of these people, if it's not like a car chase, you're gonna watch it. So I highly recommend Black Orpheus. If people are in the mood for something special, it's obviously it's a 60 fucking year old film, whatever, but it's great.
Yeah, I like those movies. My next choice, Another obvious one. I'm getting the obvious ones out of the way. And it's Morricone. He's sold millions of records. He's probably sold more records than any other soundtrack composer there is. He scored hundreds of films.
Is that the little curly pasta, or is that the puffy pasta? Or that's
it's the curly one.
Okay.
And the sad thing is his tapes were destroyed in that Universal fire. What was it, 2008?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. His master tapes are long gone. But yeah, probably the first time I ever became aware of him was Fistful of Dollars. And I don't have Fistful of Dollars, but I do have a Fistful of Fuzz.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's a fun record.
It's a good record.
Isn't John Doe on that? Or who's on that?
That?
You got to tell people who's on that. It's like a comp.
Yeah, John Doe is on there, the first song. Yeah, this is a great.
I just like you just show shit and don't tell anybody about it. Like, what the fuck is that record?
Well, it's a comp. Fistful of Fuzz. It's a comp of some really fuzzy guitar songs.
Some Morricone stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Then he did what was it?
The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
A few dollars more, and then he did the Good, the Bad, and the Four Skins.
Of course. Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, this is a good album. You would probably like it. The
punk?
First song starts off with reggae, not a reggae, but what are they? Ska song.
Are they a Jewish band?
No, they're English, Londoners.
Well, they could be Jewish. I thought the foreskin part. That's why.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't look Jewish. But that's all I'm gonna.
Okay.
I mean,
well, Morricone did great stuff.
Didn't he do The Mission?
I have a lot of his stuff on CD. I have The Mission. One of the last things he did was that Tarantino film, Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I love his stuff. I mean, some of his stuff gets really schmaltzy too, because he did Once Upon a Time in New York, Once Upon a Time in America, I'm sorry. And it gets a little schmaltzy bit. Yeah, great.
I believe he did, he didn't do the whole film, but I believe he did do some songs for this too.
I don't know.
Yeah, and also that other one.
I'm going to call you a liar about that.
Yeah,
one.
he did. I think it might be just only one song for that.
But. Okay, I'm going now with an Italian director that you already kind of showed, but it's one of my all-time favorite films that you hate, and that is Blow Up.
Oh, come on.
Come on. I love this film. Hey, it's sort of loosely based on a British swinging 60s photographer by the name of David Bailey.
Yeah.
David Bailey.
Okay, I didn't know that. I knew it was the swinging London.
Well, they're using him as it's not based on his life. They used the pattern of him.
Okay.
And it's got a great young, what's his name? God, I should have known that. It's such, years later, if you haven't seen this movie, years later, there was a movie called Blow Out with John Travolta.
Yeah.
And that was, what's the guy that made it?
Which was pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Was that Brian De Palma?
Brian De Palma.
It was?
Which is actually a good movie. And if you know that film, it's about him. He's a recording engineer, and he accidentally records like a murder, possibly, of a car crash. And he goes through the tape, and he goes back to the tape. Well, this is like this in photography, except the Antonio version, the original. It's very surreal. Like, what the fuck? Did that really happen or did it not? He's out just taking pictures one day. He's walking in the park and he's in this dark room blowing up the photographs, printing them, and he sees something. It looks like a dead body. And that's all I'll leave it. But Vanessa Redgrave's in it. There's scenes of shooting models and him treating models like shit, like very 60s swing in London. There are mimes in it towards the end with a nebulous ending. So it's got that late 60s. But actually, this is 1966.
The Yardbirds are in it.
The Yardbirds are in it. And the soundtrack, okay. I like the sound. The soundtrack's by Herbie Hancock.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Herbie Hancock. And there's one song, The Train Kept a Rollin' by the Yardbirds, who are actually in it on stage playing, and it's the Yardbirds when it's Jimmy, not Jimmy, is it Jimmy Page? Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, and Sewell, what's his name? What's the guy's name? I forgot the guy's name. But it's really good. It's a little avant-garde soundtrack, very jazzy.
Yeah, I would probably like the soundtrack more than the movie.
Well, I think the soundtrack's great, and it's amongst my favorite. I've seen the film so many times. It's not a film for everybody, maybe, but they're playing at the Crawdaddy Club in London.
Yeah.
At which time they were filming a
Train kept rolling.
Yeah, and it's great. And of course, the audience looks like these kind of shoegaze 80s, 90s artists, because the audience just stands there with no expression. They look like fucking beatniks, or that whole look. It's so artsy and so out there, and I just love it. Anyway, favorite film. And what you showed, I'm going to show it anyway. You're right, not a great film, but I think this is the extended soundtrack that first came out on CD in the 2000s or late 90s, that had a whole second disc from the movie. What's great about this, it's originals songs or music, like Pink Floyd, the Grateful Dead, and Jerry Garcia, like doing guitar and jammy, very psychedelic. But then it's got Kaleidoscope on here, and then some existing songs like John Fahey, Dance of Death, The Youngblood, Sugar Babe, which almost seems like it shouldn't fit, and and the excerpt of Dark Star by the Grateful Dead. And I don't even know what fucking version, because there's like 876 versions of Dark Star. But I love this soundtrack. It's a very psychedelic album. It's really great. Yeah, the album is shit. I mean, the movie is kind of shit. It's one of those, like, what the fuck late 60s movies.
Yeah,
it is. We talked about that, I think, when one of our earlier videos. But love this. Great soundtrack, but terrible film. Artsy, but to the point of being pretentious artsy.
Yeah, I love that soundtrack, and I didn't know that it was reissued as a double album.
It was. There's a CD of it and a vinyl version of it. So anyway, love it.
All right.
It's your
My turn.
Your turn.
All right, I'm gonna go real obvious here, and we got.
I'm glad you did it, not me.
The Beatles, A Hard Day's Night. Man, when this movie came out, it was like, I think I saw an interview with David Crosby once, and he said, yeah, when we went, I guess him and his buddies went to see the film, and when they were leaving, he was going, yeah, that's what I want to do for a living, And,
a lot of people picked up a 12-string Rickenbacker because of George Harrison in that movie.
Help, not as good a movie, but the songs are way better.
Now, what do you think? Okay, I got to ask you about those two, because
George Martin, I guess I should mention that fella's name, huh?
Because the American versions, unlike the UK, there were actual soundtracks where they had 4 or 5 tracks of instrumental stuff, which actually, as a kid, I really liked. A lot of people don't like that.
Yeah, I don't. George Martin's.
He only did the first one. He didn't do Help. He did Hard Day's Night.
He didn't. He did this one though.
I like that. I like his score on that.
Yeah, it's okay, but I love side one of this. A lot of people don't like it, but man, I think it really rocks. And yeah, here's my. I guess this is a Blu-ray. Yeah. And
Help was the composer on Help. There was a big. I'm not sure what happened, but a guy named Ken Thorne did the scored Help, not A Hard Day's Night. And there was those Indian pieces. And I've said it before, I got turned on to classical because of Help, because of Beethoven's Ninth in the movie. It's not on the soundtrack, and Wagner's on there, that da, 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 when Paul shrinks on the floor and everything.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen that movie.
Well, you should watch it then.
Yeah, I probably should. My wife.
Why don't you put it on right now, and I'll just let this play while you're watching it.
No.
Okay.
Let It Be. Was it ever released on DVD?
No, it's supposed to come out this past year, but it got delayed because of COVID. The new version. It came out on obviously VHS, and they never hit. But the new Get Back is going to come out hopefully end of this year.
Yeah. I have this. It's the Beatles Get Back Winter of Discontent.
That's a bootleg.
Yeah, it's a bootleg. 2 disc, and it's pretty good, man. It's got, it's got All Things Must Pass. It's got the Beatles doing a lot of stuff. So my hopes are high for that Get Back film. There's some good stuff. And there's a jam right here. It's called Jam Number 2 with Yoko. Man, I hope they include that, because that is so funny, man. The Beatles are playing and she's hooting and hollering.
We shall see.
Yeah.
All right. I couldn't find the film for this one, and I know I have it for some reason. I'm pretty organized, but Nick Cave and Warren Ellis from Bad Seeds have composed a handful of films. And this is by far my favorite they composed, and I love this movie. And it's Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. And obviously it's with
Brad Pitt?
Mr. Pretty Boy, Brad Pitt. It's got Casey Affleck. It's a beautiful film. I think you'd like this film. It's long, but it's so gorgeous, and the soundtrack is amazing. There's one scene in it where actually Nick Cave plays a strolling musician in a bar.
Who's the director?
This is
is it that Jarmusch guy?
No, it's not Jim Jarmusch. It's Andrew Dominic. Andrew Dominic. This came out in 2007. It was a motion picture.
Yeah, I remember when it came. I never
recognize a lot of these actors from different movies. Sam Shepard. You know, there's the Avenger, whatever his name is. And there's him. There's
Sherlock
him.
Holmes.
I love him. Casey Affleck, and there's that guy, and there's him.
There's a lot of guys.
A lot of guys. I like when him and those guys are in this movie, but this is one of the most beautifully shot movies I've ever seen. And the score is beautiful. Great soundtrack.
Is it all instrumental, or?
I think there's a little vocals on it, but it's mostly instrumental. There's Nick. That's Nick Cave in the film there. I mean, it's actually a better film than if you ever saw I almost included the Dylan soundtrack he did for Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid Peckinpah. Kind of the same story in a way.
Yeah.
But this is a much better film. I love this. I love the Pat Garrett Dylan score. Just all like a great guitar stuff and acoustic and Knocking on Heaven's Door. I think it's a great soundtrack. Yeah. So I'm going to throw that in just as a bonus, because I can do a bonus too, if you can do bonuses.
Yeah, I was thinking of getting the MoFi, but it's not available anymore. My next director who uses film or uses music in his films, I think just as good or better than anybody, and that would be Stanley Kubrick, somebody I talked about when we did directors. If he's not my favorite director, he's my second favorite director. This is basically classical music. It's all various classical music, and it's conducted by different people. And some of it's the Berlin Orchestra, if I remember off the top of my head, but not all of it. And it's great. And
I got that when it came out in '68. It almost seems, in a weird way, I've talked about that before. It almost seems psychedelic, even though it's classical music. And the weird thing about that movie is that's the music that he was using when he was cutting the film, just as filler. And he had, I'm blanking the guy's name, and I have that on a CD. He had a composer score the whole movie and didn't tell the composer that he changed his mind to use the score. And the guy shows up with his wife at the preview screening, and his music's not in the movie.
Wow.
That's tacky, even though, but he's someone I almost pulled, because every score is great. Clockwork Orange, the soundtrack's great. That's great. I just love his soundtracks.
Yeah. Great. This one with Walter Carlos. I don't have that soundtrack with that iconic cover.
It's
I
great.
do have the Walter Carlos album, and I didn't pull it. But then I got this one here, Barry Lyndon, and I do have the soundtrack for that one. And it's a promotional copy.
Ooh. Is it
Those
white
people
label?
the people in the VC will know what I'm talking about. Everybody else will go, "What the fuck is a
Is it
promotional?"
white label?
I don't know. Should I pull it out?
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it. Let's see. Let's see if we got a white label promo here.
No. But
Palm
yeah,
tree.
this is
Palm tree.
classical and Irish folk music.
The Chieftains are on that, I think.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Yeah, there's that song. Actually, I don't have that album. I'd like to have it, but I have we used to sell, I think it's Chieftain 4. I forgot which one of the Chieftains. They used to like, they called their albums like 3, 4, 5. They're probably as imaginative as like Chicago, that with those fucking Roman numerals. But they Women of Ireland or Something of Ireland is that great theme song for that.
Yeah. Women of Ireland.
Yeah, I love that song. Okay, I'm doing a artist, that contemporary filmmaker who every time he shoots, everything is so symmetrical, and that is Wes Anderson, and he uses great found music, and I'm doing this one. I love this soundtrack, the Darjeeling Limited. Not my favorite of his films. I like it, but it's not my favorite. Some of it is really good, but he uses like 2 or 3 Kink songs in here. Let's see, there's some Indian stuff he takes from Sajayat Rai's film, some Indian film, because it takes place in India. He uses This Time Tomorrow by the Kinks. There's what else? There's another Kink song on here, I forgot. But he takes all this music like from different Indian Sajayat Rai films, and Claire de Lune on here, and so sort of soundtracky from others. So it's interesting. I never thought of this. I don't remember many other films that like grab soundtracks from older films to use on their film now, and it works in the soundtrack. So this is the film. I think it's a really cool film. Again, not my favorite of his, but there's some just amazing funny sequences, and the way it's shot is beautiful. I think all his, I don't have many of his soundtracks. In fact, I don't have any of his soundtracks, but all the scores, I mean, his soundtracks, he picks great music. So he has a good eye, ear for fitting sort of pop music. Oh, the other one is the what's his name? The Brazilian singer who did the African, or the Brazilian versions of the David Bowie songs in a Life Aquatic, and those songs are great. I mean,
that guy, yeah,
all those Bowie. I should have brought that actually. All those
Bowie. The way he does those songs is really good. I didn't even know who that guy was, and after I saw the film, I kind of looked him up. I go, oh shit, he's an established.
I'm gonna fuck up his name now. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
So someone's gonna write it down there. I could stop the tape, go get it, but fuck it, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Just watch the movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, he's an interesting director, Wes Anderson. As is my next pick, and it's kind of more of a genre than anything else. And I'm going to show this Roger Corman collection, which got all these 60s exploito. You got Gas, The Trip, The Wild Angels, and
like Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson, and
that's where they came from. And I'm going to show some of the albums I have. I do have the Wild Angels Volume 2 with Davey Allen and
Blues Theme on that, or is that a different movie?
No, it's the same. There was 2. They actually released 2 albums
by Dave and the Arrows. What is it? Dave Allen and the Arrows.
Davey Allen and the Arrows. But there is a, the song Blues Theme.
Yeah,
there is a vocal version on this.
That's what I just said. You weren't paying attention.
Okay, what did you say?
I said, Dick. I said Blues Theme, and you didn't pay attention. And you a minute later you said Blues Theme. I said Blues Theme. Dave Allen and the Arrows.
Yeah,
that was a hit.
Yeah, the Wild Angels Volume 1 has blues theme on it. This has blues
I
theme
said
with a
blues theme.
vocal.
I said
This
blue.
has
I just said blues theme.
Yeah, but this has blues theme with a vocal. It's
I'm fucking with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right, man.
Oh,
And then another biker, Devil's Angels.
those are cool. Are those OGs?
Yeah, and this one's in the shrink, and I'm not taking it off.
Fuck it.
This one here is really cool. Revolution.
I have that. That's a great
Yeah.
soundtrack.
With a Quicksilver Messenger Service, Steve Miller Band, and Mother Earth. Yeah,
They do
this is pretty
codeine.
good.
They do codeine on that, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a really good one too. Wild in the Streets.
Oh, I remember that movie.
And it actually has a very young Richard Pryor in it. But yeah, the soundtrack to this is really good. And
that would be a great soundtrack for both that and Ride on Sunset Strip is like what's happening in America right now.
Yeah. Ride on Sunset, yeah, kind of. Ride on Sunset Strip has the Standells and the Chocolate Watch Band. Really good. And it's live versions they do on this.
Tower Records.
Yeah, Tower Records. But
not to be confused with the store.
Yeah. Probably my favorite of all the ones that I have is Psych Out.
Oh, wow.
This is a really good collection of songs.
I'll give you $2 if you rip the shrink off right now.
No, I'm not ripping the shrink off. I'm a shrink guy. And that's and I got one liney one. Merry-Go-Round. What is it?
Oh, I have that.
Here we go around the Mulberry Bush.
Traffic.
Yeah, with Traffic and Spencer Davis Group without Steve Winwood. It's pretty good. So yeah, I love
soundtracks I would pick up. I remember they were pretty cheap, and I never saw that film.
Yeah, I saw the film. I've seen probably all those films, but they all kind of blur into each other. And this guy here, he's kind of like a playboy type. I kind of like
the blow up guy.
Yeah, I kind of like the San Francisco hippie ones better myself.
Now, I think some of those records, I'm not sure if a lot of them were produced. Remember Mike Curb, who was Attorney General?
Yeah, a lot of them are.
He was a Republican, right wing, sort of, but he produced a lot of these weird music score things.
I think he probably worked for Roger Corman, I think. Huh?
Yeah, and he had his own label, like a custom
Curb
label.
Records, was it, or?
Curb Records was a part of Warner Brothers. I forgot what label it was part of that.
Yeah.
Big hits too. So
yeah, big hits.
Okay, I'm going to go with one movie, but it's an attached bonus. The movie I'm going to go with is Rumblefish. I showed this before in one of our things. Francis Coppola. The soundtrack's fantastic. The soundtrack is Stuart Copeland, the drummer of the Police. This is a great rhythmic score, wonderful score. The title track, "Don't Box Me In," the singing on that is Stan Ridgway, who does vocals and harmonica. Instead, Stan Ridgway from Wall of Voodoo, right?
Yes, Wall of Voodoo.
Love this score. Love this movie. It's black and white film. It's one of two films that Coppola made of S.E. Hinton books back to back. This one and The Outsiders. But this one is the better of the two. It's artsy. It's got a young Diane Lane. It's got Matt Dillon. It's got Dennis Hopper. It's got Mickey Rourke. Fantastic film, but the soundtrack's great. And I just wanted to show this in because this is a really kind of interesting soundtrack. Of course, Apocalypse Now. A lot of synthesizers on this. The music is conducted by, I think, his father. Some of it was done by Carmine Coppola, his brother or uncle, his uncle, who actually was the composer, worked at San Francisco State, who is the father of Nicolas Coppola. And David Rubinson produced this, who had the Automat recording studio in San Francisco. It used to be Columbia, and David Rubinson, produced so many bands like Santana and the Beau Brummels and a lot of other ones a little later, the Pointer Sisters. But a lot of the synthesizer stuff, Pat Gleason is someone I knew who was the guy that really started teaching Herbie Hancock when he switched over the synthesizers how to play. I think Bernie Krause, also from Beaver and Krause. So there's a lot, and Mickey Hart from Dead play on this, but a lot of the helicopter sounds they did from synthesizers, not real helicopter sounds. And if you've seen Apocalypse Now, it's got those great loud, almost like slow motion chopper sounds. And they really couldn't get it from recording it, so they did it all by synthesizer. This is really a great soundtrack. Of course, it has remixed versions of The End by the Doors, and sometimes songs fade in and out. So it's a cool way to have these soundtracks. Now, one could argue or say that I want a whole Doors song. It's not that, but in a way, it works as a soundscape for the film. Because when you think about it, there's no whole Doors song really in the movie, but they use it really beautifully in a couple of segments towards the beginning. Shit, I'm Still in Saigon, and towards the end when Kurtz is like killed and the ox is almost decapitated. So, well, I love this score. It's kind of it's interesting. If you like electronic music, it's a little bit of that mixed in with Doors records. But I think this is a cool soundtrack from Coppola.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. It almost destroyed him. But yeah.
Patrick Gleason, was he the one that produced Herbie Hancock?
No, he was on that one really out there record. I forgot that transition around. Was it 69 or 70? I knew him because he lived in San Francisco. He had a recording studio called Different Fur, but he worked as a synthesized player, piano player, just scored TV shows and some movies and stuff. And
I know the name for sure.
I knew him because he was married to my son's godmother, a woman named Joan Genrenault, who was the original, well, not the original, but for years a cellist in the Kronos Quartet. That's why I got into their music a lot, that kind of modernist classical. So
now I kind of combined two films into one, and I'm going to go with this one first. And this is a Woodstock. It's the soundtrack for Woodstock sold millions, similar to Easy Rider. This is the 40th anniversary Ultimate Collector's Edition.
The ultimate one until the 50th.
Yeah, exactly. But what's funny is this is number 68,244 of 140,000. They wouldn't even make a tenth of that now, probably a tenth of that nowadays.
They did that big old box on the 50th, that huge.
Yeah,
$500.
but they didn't make 140,000 of them.
No, but they made they made like I think 2,000, and it had everything recorded first time, audio only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't buy physical media like they used to,
I remember seeing that movie. What a great movie that was.
Yeah. I have Woodstock 2 on vinyl.
Remember all those groups that kicked themselves in the butt for not allowing them to be on the original movie? Like,
yes.
I think the Airplane weren't in the movie, and the band wasn't in the movie the first time.
Yeah, that's one good thing about this. It's 3 DVDs, and it's got a lot of footage that's not in the movie. The Creedence Clearwater, and who else is really good was Johnny Winter.
Oh, yeah,
it's like, man, his footage is fantastic. And
that reminds me, because go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You can talk and I can show.
Well, yeah. Because I just watched all the outtakes. I have a Criterion box, a video of the Monterey Pop Festival. Did you include that too? That is fantastic. Are you going to show that?
Yes, I was going to show that next.
We'll wait.
I was going to do it in chronological order, but I
just watched that. That's why it reminds me.
I watched it a few weeks ago too. The outtakes with the birds and the Mamas and Papas set. It is amazing. They really rock.
Yeah, they were great. They were great.
This is a great album here, man. Sly and the Family Stone. I got Jefferson Airplane live at Woodstock, and of course,
CCR.
Jimi Hendrix.
Didn't get CCR?
I didn't get CCR, and I believe Santana. I didn't really want CCR. In fact, I've gotten rid of all their albums.
Tommy, I think great records. Those are great records.
I got Jimi Hendrix on DVD at Woodstock. This is really good. Yeah.
Jimmy loves you.
You know what's funny about this is there's the guy that's right to the right of Jimi Hendrix, and he's playing his heart out on the, and you can't even hear it, man.
Same with was it Larry Levy or what's the guy's name? The other guitar player. You can't hear him play.
Yeah.
Everybody went home too before his set started.
Yeah, it was an empty crowd. It was the same as that live at Maui. There's hardly anybody there.
Monday morning, everyone went back to work.
Yeah. But they gave him the opportunity to play like Sunday night, was it? And he turned it down. He goes, no, he insisted on being the very last person to play.
Okay.
And then you got the Monterey Pop. This is great too, man. Like you said, the outtakes.
I love that because that in a way was, I mean, you could technically say there were other shows that were but that was the first big one. And I never saw that movie until years later, but I didn't hear the record, but I mean, I was too young to go to it. I would have been like 12 and a half or 13.
Yeah.
And just wasn't in my, I went there. It's the same location where they have the Monterey Jazz Festival every year. That's only about 2.5 hours out of San Francisco, but my parents weren't going to take me to that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty good film, but yeah, I love the music in it. Janis Joplin got her start there. Basically,
Hendrix, Janis Joplin. Yeah.
The Who. I mean, the Who were known, but they kind of blew up with their performance too.
And the Beatles.
Yeah, that was
the Beatle connection. The Beatle connection. They wanted the Beatles to perform there, and McCartney, I think, suggested the Who and Hendrix.
Yeah, well, that was two good suggestions. I mean, the Who had hits before that, but especially Jimi Hendrix, man, that was the first time he really hit America.
I had the Ravi Shankar. It's funny. There's a Ravi Shankar record, and it says Ravi Shankar Woodstock, but it wasn't recorded there because there was some fuck up with recording of Ravi Shankar at the Monterey or at Woodstock, excuse me. And it fucked it up. So he re-recorded everything a few days later to get out an album looking as if it was recorded at Woodstock, Ravi Shankar. But Ravi Shankar played Monterey too, and was really upset seeing these bands destroy their instruments. The instruments are sacred. You don't rip them up. You don't put them on fire.
I can imagine.
It's a bad Indian accent. But
that Dick Cavett show, what was recorded a couple of days after Woodstock, is pretty cool with
the airplane
and whoever. I have that.
It's got David Crosby and the airplane, and
yeah. There you go. The one thing about this I noticed, it was what, a 3-day festival?
I think so.
Yeah, watching all the outtakes, because I believe you could buy single tickets or you could buy for all 3 days. If I would have bought for day 2, I would have been pissed off, man. Because you had like the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, Electric Flag. You had like 4 or 5 bands, and they all fucking sounded the same.
They were the same people. Mike Bloomfield.
Yeah, actually it was.
There was a lot of overlapping, and
there was a lot of overlap with those.
Harvey Mandel. You know, there is a great album. The first album I got. Do you remember that? I didn't bring it out because obviously I didn't know you were going to show that. But as that Reprise record, that one side is Otis Redding and one side is Jimi Hendrix, and that's an excellent record.
Yeah, my brother had that record, and I didn't really know who Otis Redding was, and it was like, man, this is fucking good.
I got to know him from Dock of the Bay. That was my first.
Well, yeah, that was like after he died, though.
Yeah, it came out right after he died. Yeah. All right, I'm showing a film and a soundtrack that was my favorite film of, was it 2018, I think? And it's a film that or 17, maybe 2017. And the Daniel Day-Lewis got another Oscar nomination, but he didn't win because hardly anybody went to see this film. It's Phantom Thread. And The Phantom Thread is an amazing film. And it's by Paul Thomas Anderson, who also did Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, the one with the guy at Saturday Night Live, Adam Sandler was in that weird movie, which is unusual for Adam Sandler. He was great in it.
That's the one you told me to watch.
Yeah. Did you watch it?
No, not yet.
Fucker. Anyway,
Punch Drunks, is it? Something
Punch
Punch Drunk?
Drunk Love, yes. Paul Thomas Anderson. This to me is one of the most beautiful films. Again, I keep saying that, like I'm going to say it too fucking much. It was filmed in this London house, and I think almost not all of it was filmed in this house, 3-level house. He is a couture fashion designer, and he meets this young woman who becomes sort of his muse, and he's designing this beautiful fashion. This movie is influenced by Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca. It's nothing like that, but I've seen this movie about 4 times now, and every time I see it, it's dark, it's moody. I think it's a little funny, like black humor, but it's not a ha-ha film at all. Some of it's pretty weird, and some interesting stuff happens in it. But the soundtrack is an amazing soundtrack by Johnny Greenwood, who is a guitar player for Radiohead. And he's done some classical type of soundtracks. But it's just there's things about threads and clothing. You could just imagine the photographing of these bolts of fabric and these people doing hemming up models and stuff. I know that's kind of sounds boring, but it's really great intimate drama in a way. And there's something about this that I laughed out loud. Like I was with Michelle, my ex-partner, but whatever, and we hang out a lot. We went to see this. I was laughing out loud. Nobody in the theater was laughing at all. It was one of the, because there was some of these subtle things. Dane Day-Lewis is so over the top in a subtle. I mean, he's great in anything. I will watch him like do my laundry. I just love him.
Is that him on the cover?
That's him on the cover.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's him there. This is supposedly the last film he's ever going to do. We'll see if that.
I have never seen that movie.
I think it's really good.
Apparently, nobody else did either, huh?
Right. Well, it got nominated, and I think it got nominated for Best Director too. Actually, it's if you like, almost like drawing room drama, but romantic, but to a point. He has this weird sister who's a partner in the business, and it's very much. If you do you remember Rebecca, the Hitchcock film?
Yes.
Yeah. Devers, who's the it's kind of like that. You bring in a new woman into the house, a new young wife or a new young protege, and the sister's there. So that's the similarity. It's not the same story, but it takes a dark turn in it, which is really interesting and really good and really a surprise. So there's a bit of a twist in it. That's all I'll say about that. But the soundtrack is beautiful. It's very kind of neoclassical, which is kind of.
What is it? Something thread?
A phantom thread.
A phantom thread. Okay.
You know, if you like smart cinema, you know, if you want to watch these dumb shit movies all the time, like Easy
like
Rider and you know, Die Hard 17 and Avengers 47, you know, I like those.
I did watch Die Hard a couple of days ago.
I love Die Hard.
Yeah.
It's a great, and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and people, that's the question: is that a Christmas movie or not? Okay, your turn. Oh, I forgot to show this before Apocalypse Now. So I only have one more.
I have 2 more.
Okay, why don't you do yours and then I'll do mine, then you end it.
Yeah. I started off, you said sophisticated, or what was the word you said?
Pretentious.
Pretentious, yeah. Well, I'm not ending that way. This is the decline of Western civilization.
I saw that in the theater.
Penelope Spears directed it. It's got Black Flag, Circle Jerks.
I never saw the heavy metal one.
Yeah, this is the soundtrack.
I wish I still had that. I used to have that soundtrack.
Everything's really good on it, except for the Catholic Discipline. I don't really like that song. But yeah, everything else is. What is it? Where is he at? Fear. He is funny. They're really good.
He's funny in the movie. I remember that.
Yeah. He wouldn't start playing until the audience got pissed off, and then once the audience got pissed, he started playing.
Didn't he become an actor for a while too?
Yeah. And this is the 3
that has
kind of
metal
civilization 1, 2, and 3. 2 is the metal years, and that's probably my least favorite.
I never saw that. What's 3?
it's about the street punks in LA, in Hollywood, and it's pretty good. It's kind of sad, but it's pretty good. It more deals more with these homeless kids than anything else on the streets of
Were
Hollywood.
you a follower, not a follower, but remember Rodney Binghamton? What's his name?
Bingenheimer?
Bingheimer. Bing.
Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't there a documentary on him too, or something?
Oh, that's a good document. The mayor of Hollywood.
Is that it? Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No.
Oh man.
It's good. Is
Oh
it
yeah.
sad good or good good?
It's my wife. When we watched it, she goes, "Why?" After I don't know an hour in, she goes, "He always looks so sad." You know, it is kind of sad.
It's funny. I like talking to you about LA because I used to go to LA. I mean, for years, for all my life, I've been going to LA. I remember the woman that used to put up the billboards of herself.
Oh yeah, the
pink.
Yeah, I know who you're.
She had some rich guys putting billboards. She wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
She was never famous, but there was billboards for her, and she would drive out in a convertible all the time.
She was a few decades ahead of her time. If
Right?
You think about it, you know, people nowadays, they create their own celebrity.
She was an influencer with no one to influence, I guess.
Yeah.
But
And then her other movie, Suburbia.
I saw that.
Yeah, this is not a documentary. This is a pretty good movie. There's a few lines on it that get kind of corny, but overall it's a good film.
So tell me, but I don't even know the soundtrack. What's the soundtrack connection with that one? What kind of music is on there?
It's side one has DI, because there's 3 bands that actually perform live in the film, and side one consists of that: DI, TSOL, and the Vandals. But side 2 is all the soundtrack, the score by Alex Gibson, and it's really good. I kind of like the score side better than I do the bands. Like, remember when they're cruising around and they're looking for like looking into garages that are open, and then they go and they raid people's garages.
Forgot about that.
There's
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Garbage Raid. That's one of the songs. And
What year is
really
that?
Good.
Is that like late 80s, early 90s?
Early 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I forgot.
84.
Okay.
84. So you got your last one?
I got my last one. I'm going with the Coen Brothers film, and you talked earlier about T-Bone Burnett, and this is another great soundtrack he put together. And I find a lot of people didn't love this film like I loved it. I've seen it a bunch of times, and it, to me, gets better. And it's Inside Llewellyn Davis, and it's about the early 60s, sort of the Greenwich Village folk scene. And the actor, what's his name again? Oscar Isaac, who was in the new Star Wars movies and plays as folk singer. He actually sings his own stuff, and he's incredible. Justin Timberlake is in it a little bit. And he's really good because they get this session to write like a hit song about going up in space, and it's like a novelty song. Of course, you know, he's struggling, and he just takes the session fee at the recording session because he doesn't want he needs like the $50 or whatever it was, which is a lot in 1962 or whatever. And of course, the song becomes a huge hit later. He would have got a publishing on it, but that's a small part. John Goodman's in it, who's in a lot of Coen Brothers film. But it's about the folk scene. Some of it is really funny. Some of it's depressing. The soundtrack, this is the soundtrack. So it's a really good folk record. And he's the character of him is loosely based on Dave Van Ronk, who was this folk singer, kind of the mayor of Greenwich Village in a way, who never quite made it, like with Dylan.
Is he the one that did House of the Rising Sun? That Ronk guy?
Well, a lot of people did it. I think he did it. He did cocaine running around my brain. And yeah. I have a couple of his records. And of course, there's a scene with F. Murray Abraham in here, who plays sort of the character like Albert Grossman, who put together Peter, Paul, and Mary. And of course, the character offers him, oh, maybe I don't really like you alone, but maybe you should put together in a group. Of course, it's insinuating like putting together Peter, Paul, and Mary, where you could be kind of this big hit thing.
I have a question.
They're really good. Go ahead.
Is there a Bob Dylan and Joan Baez character in that film, or?
I don't want to wreck it for you. No, but
I think I might like that movie.
I've seen it a few times and I like it better every time I see it. It's one of those, Coen brothers are growers in some cases.
Some of theirs are definitely.
Yeah. Even Oh Brother was kind of like that. It takes a while to get going, but there is a scene towards the end where this guy gets on stage, and of course it's Dylan. So I'm wrecking it for you. And then there's these guys, like he's a motherfucker. He gets drunk in the club, and there's this group of singers that are really good, and they have these like those white knit like not Swedish, Scottish sweaters. Is really, remember those thick Scottish woven sweaters, and they're like I don't know if you remember the Clancy brothers in the 60s, and they sang like Scottish folk music. Exactly. And then there's this was a really cool, you can watch this on a video, and it's called Another Day, Another Time, celebrating the music of Llewellyn Davis. So a lot of these folk groups, including the Milk Carton Kids and Llewellyn Davis and Kebmo and Bobby Newirth and Elvis Costello and Joan Baez and the Avett Brothers, Conor Oberst, Punch Brothers, all Gillian Welch, Jack White, they all do a live concert with a lot of the music used in the film. And it's a live show that T-Bone Burnett put together. And it's really good. If you like this kind of music, I just realized I got this when it came out, and a friend of mine was looking for it, and we looked online, and it's going for like $100 and something now. It's out of print. This version, it's like a triple record. And it's a concert like they did. I don't know if you remember with Oh Brother, they did a touring show of that music that I saw in San Jose with some of the people like Gillian Welch and Bobby Newirth and a lot of those singers. So I love this music. If you like folk music, early 60s and kind of acoustic roots, but that polished kind of folk music, it's really good. But it's kind of he's a real asshole in this. That's what's great about it. And of course, John Goodman has a bit. He's like this fucking heroin addict, which I probably wrecked it for you right there. And there's a thread about a cat, which some people didn't like, thought it was a really stupid idea in the movie. Initially, I didn't love it, but now I like it. And Carey Mulligan, this great English actress, is in it playing his on again, off again girlfriend, and she's really good. Of course, it's one of those things where he's such a loser, and he's so talented. We've known musicians and artists that just fuck themselves over because they're so talented, but they're their own worst enemy.
Yeah. Kind of like Invisible Ray.
Exactly right. People who are watching this from movies might not even know who that is.
That's why I said that.
That's good. Okay, your closing final answer.
Well, we'll end it there. That way we both did 10, and I'll work this next one in another video.
All right. Well, Dick, Norm, love you.